What is up, clean freaks and filthy friends alike? Filthy Dan coming at you for another film discussion, and this one is going to be heavily opinionated. It's going to be me tackling what is considered one of the golden, semi-unofficial rules of horror franchises. That is that the original is seldom ever topped. I picked up 10 films that I find to be, in my opinion, better than the original films. And this is going to be a very, again, opinionated video. It might irritate some people with some of the opinions that I have here, but, that's something I'm willing and ready to face. There's going to be a few in here that I know are definitely going to ruffle some feathers and stir the pot, as it were. But yeah, we're going to take a look at 10 sequels that beat the original for my money. We're going to start at number 10, of course. And here's going to be the first one that I think really sets people off. That's going to be Scream 2 from 1997. That one, it was a tough call for me to make, but there are things in Scream 2 that I find more enjoyable than the original. I like the college setting. And this is not to say that I don't like the original. I love all four of the Scream films. But there's something about too, the college setting is one. The raising the stakes and killing Randy. I like Randy as a character, and I appreciate them having the balls to kill him off. That was a bold move. It really, it put the film on another level, and it showed that Scream was not really a one-trick pony. It would have seemed as it were whenever the first film came out, like, oh, this is a one and done. Now, Scream 2 showed that there was more potential for satirizing and yet still taking a semi-serious approach with a refurbished form of the slashers. So that's why Scream 2 comes in on this list. It's just a nut hair better, and that's why it came in at number 10. Coming in at number 9, we've got Hellbound Hellraiser 2. Again, this is another case of the original film being really great. There's just, I think, a little more to play with in this film, and I don't know, I find it more rewatchable than the first one, so that's one reason why I had to pick Hellraiser 2. I like the idea of giving the Cenobites a little bit of backstory. It's really more so implied. You see them in their human forms whenever the doctor gets turned into a Cenobite and fucking goes ape shit and kills them all off at the end. It digs into the hellscape a little bit more, and I really like the imagery of the really bad 80s designed computer graphic of Leviathan. I like that cheesy 80s computerized graphic. That was fucking awesome. I have a lot more fun with this one. It is a fun Hellraiser film where the first one's a lot more serious. It's very cerebral in the first one comparatively, but there's something about Hellraiser 2 that brings me back more and more. I'm under the blade with this one. Coming in at number 8, we have one that is not to be fucked with. Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back in Child's Play 2. Again, similar reasons for the last two. It's a lot more rewatchable, I find. It's a tad bit more enjoyable. We don't have to deal with the obvious mystery. I mean, if you grew up with these films and saw them in a different order, you know that Chucky's the killer all the way through. So the first one doesn't have that sense of mystery. And Child's Play 2 is one that I really remember really well, having seen as a kid. It was this and Bride that really stuck out. But this one, it's got that fucking third act where they're in the factory. That is one thing that really elevates it. And then you have the whole thing of the Chucky and Tommy doll in the same house. So he's able to do the little switch the identities there and fuck with Andy furthermore. That adds a nice layer of suspense and tension in ways that we probably don't even think about. And it does very well at picking up from the first film and carrying on the story. So for that reason, Child's Play 2, easily makes this list. Coming in at number 7. This is going to be another one that raises a little bit of controversy, I'm sure, but I enjoy this one. That is going to be Final Destination 2. What can I say that hasn't been said about this one? It's you would think that Final Destination is a film like Scream, that it's going to be a one-trick pony. You can't do a lot more with it. Bullshit. Final Destination 2, it sort of it does very well, actually, at continuing the story of Clear Rivers, and barely carries on with Alex Browning. We find that he died at the end of the first film. It's really no surprise. They did it in a way that really kind of sucked ass, but no, I find that this one's a lot more suspenseful than the original in some ways. Like, one thing they do is really play with the rules of death, and they do incorporate that whole bit where the characters are they were interrupted in dying on the Flight 180 thing. Like, their paths were supposed to have crossed with that. So I thought that was a really cool way to really continue the story. It's like they were part of this original pattern, but they lucked out. So Death is just coming around to pick up some of the scraps that he left. That's a really cool angle. And again, a great fucking sequel. It's got a little bit more enjoyability than the original, but I don't know. It's a tough one with this one, but Final Destination 2 certainly makes this list. Coming in at number 6. Oh, God, I hear Steve Merlo getting angry at me already for this one, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This is probably the most divisive so far on this list. Some people hate it, and I get that. It totally changes the tone from the original film. I like the original film, but I fucking adore Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I loved it from the first time I saw it. Like, I could tell immediately that, okay, they're not taking this one so seriously. They're having fun with it. And that's what this film is. It's a fucking roller coaster ride of fun. I mean, you got Chop Top, for Christ's sake. I have a lot of fun with Chop Top. The little love story with, like, the sort of love story that you got going on with Stretch and Leatherface. Let's hashtag better love story than Twilight kind of thing going on there. I find this one to be very enjoyable. Whenever I'm going to watch a Texas Chainsaw film, this is easily the first one that I'm pulling off the shelf. The original doesn't have the rewatchability factor. Like, you can't rewatch it and have fun with it. You watch it and you feel really uncomfortable, but with this one, you put it on, you have fun. What are we watching next? Fuck it, let's rewatch Texas Chainsaw 2. That's why it makes this list. Texas Chainsaw 2, fucking roller coaster ride of fun. Coming in here at number 5. It's probably the second most divisive of the bunch here. And this is one, you love it or you hate it. There's not really any middle ground to it. That is going to be the 2009 masterpiece that is, drumroll please, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Now, I know a lot of people hate this film, and I get that. But I absolutely appreciate this one because Rob Zombie takes a little bit of what we know of Halloween, but he throws in a lot of totally unrelated story elements into it that really, he makes it his own thing. And that's exactly how I think that Rob Zombie's Halloween films ought to be looked at. You can't look at it as part of a larger franchise. It just does not work that way. It needs to be looked at as its own entity, its own piece of work. That's what it is. And I'm one of a group of people who does appreciate it for what it is. Those of you who saw my Halloween ranking video saw that I do rank this one relatively high. Yeah, I really enjoy Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I easily prefer it over his Halloween 2007. And you could almost argue that this one shouldn't even be on the list as it's a sequel to a remake. But fuck it. I had to put it on here because This film deserves a lot more credit than it's given. I like that there are people who actually come around to it and really do enjoy it. And I'm spreading the good word on Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Easily makes this list. And it's got a lot less white trash, and there's people complain about Laurie's behavior in this one and the psychotic visuals that we get. She's taking prescription drugs that are trying to stabilize her fucking head. It makes sense that she's seeing all this fucked up shit. She's got the PTSD and everything. These fucking prescription drugs running through her brains. That makes sense of a lot of things. I could go on a tangent about this film, so we're not going to do that. We're going to move on to number 4. And this is a film I saw only very recently. And I wasn't sure what to expect with it, but Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. Now, I'm, again, part of a small handful that really enjoy the original Prom Night. I've recently noticed that a lot of people don't seem to like that one very much. I adore that film. But I found Prom Night 2 to be a little bit more enjoyable. It's a lot more fun. We don't get teased with nudity in this one. We actually get to see a great amount of nudity, and I fucking loved it for that. That was one thing that just accelerated this one for me. Like, yes, thank you. Plus, you got Michael Ironside in here. Who doesn't like Michael Ironside in their film? You probably don't want iron in your side, but in your film, definitely could go with some Ironside. But no, this one, I really enjoyed the whole possession angle. That was something that I wasn't really expecting with this, and it still kept the slasher tone and pattern, but it did a little twist on it, and I appreciate it for that. So, Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, you deserve your placement here at number 4. Coming in at number 3, we've got a nice little treat for you, some tutti fucking fruity with The Devil's Rejects. Now, I enjoy Rob Zombie as a filmmaker, if you can't tell already. This is 2 films of his that have made this list. The Devil's Rejects tells a much more cohesive story than House of a Thousand Corpses, a film which I do enjoy. But this one takes those characters, changes them up just a little bit, but it puts it into a better formed narrative. Where House of a Thousand Corpses was like it was like a music video from hell that goes on for 90 minutes or so. The Devil's Rejects tells a freaking story. It's a road movie, a great bit of horror, tiny bit of action. It gives you almost everything you would want in a movie, but it's got that Rob Zombie touch that is uniquely his own with the hillbilly white trash cannibal shit. Who doesn't love that? One thing I could go without, but really does kind of add a layer of grossness to the film is the motel scene. And you guys know the part I'm talking about. That was makes you feel really uncomfortable. It doesn't really add much to the film, but it just kind of gives you a sense of, okay, yeah, these guys, we kind of want them to die. And it kind of, where you don't care for anybody really in House of a Thousand Corpses, you start to care for the Fireflies in this film. But you know in the back of your mind that they are terrible people who deserve to die. You should hate them, but you can't help but love them just a little bit. And I like how the film, it does a great deal to balance out their very bad behavior, but it humanizes them too. So there's that little conflict there as a viewer that really gets inside your head. Moving on to number 2. Now, this is one where I thought you can throw a fucking dart. That's because we were looking at a sequel to Friday the 13th. Again, you could throw a dart. Which one's better than the original? There's multiple answers you could give on this one, but I had to go with the final chapter. It's got probably the best characters, I think, in a Friday the 13th film. You have 2 sets of characters. You have the teenagers who are here to get high party, and then you have the Jarvis family, and you get a nice bit of the 2, you know? And there's a nice little back and forth with the filming. You got Tom Savini coming back with the special makeup effects, Joseph Zito's fucking masterful direction. I believe that Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is not only a great horror film, a great horror sequel, but it's also a great film in general. Like, it's very well shot, very well put together. It gives you just enough with the characters to where you really feel something for them. You don't want these people to all meet a grisly end, and you feel terrible when they do. And this is one of the few times where you're not really rooting for Jason Voorhees. Again, it's probably agreed very heavily that this is probably the best Friday the 13th. It's probably the only matter of fact entry on this list. But we're going on to another one that is going to be quite divisive, and I think there's a few different things I think that really make this next one a yes or no for some people, and it's really about the type of film you like. If you like the more slasher based stuff, you're probably going to agree here. If you prefer the more narrative strength of the original, you're going to disagree. That is going to be, though, Psycho 2. Now, I saw the Psycho movies in a really weird order. I saw 3, 2, 4, and then 1. I love all 4 of those films. Like, even part 4 is not too bad. But there's something about Psycho 2 that I find to be a lot more enjoyable than the original film. Like, where the first one is like, it kind of sets up the idea of, is this guy going crazy? Is he covering up his mother's crimes? And then, of course, we get to the end of Psycho. It's like, oh shit, he killed his mom, and now he's acting as her, partially out of guilt. But this one takes place 23 years later. He's out of the asylum now. He's trying to be a well-adjusted, readjusted member of society. But is he going crazy? That's a question that this film raises. And that's one reason why I like it too, because it continues Norman's arc. And we don't get too often where the bad guy, as it were, was the central focal point of the film. In this one, Norman Bates is very much so the focal point of Psycho. Psycho 2, Psycho 3, they take him on an arc. And even 4 carries on with that story a little bit, even though it's uncertain exactly if it follows up with 3 or if it's just a follow-up to 2 or 1. But I don't know, there's just something I find a lot more enjoyable about this one. Anthony Perkins brings back a great performance as Norman Bates. I like the slasher mentality of it. Like, you're bringing back Psycho 20 years later. How are we going to pick that back up? Well, you incorporate a little more slasher element into it, and bam, boom, bingo. I think it was really successful, and again, a very divisive answer there. But Psycho 2, I think, is definitely the king of sequels that can almost outdo their original counterpart. So those are my opinions, folks. I know some of y'all might agree, some of y'all might disagree. Just go ahead and let me know what y'all think. But as always, I'd like to say thank you all for watching this video. Please be sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. It really helps the channel. Share the fuck out of it. Stab that subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra filthy, go ahead and drop your picks down in the comments below. As always, y'all stay filthy. And also, be sure to check out these social media links.